had a number of requests related to identifying if it is possible on a food product to make a source of protein claim. Now, for any of our friends who are watching this video from outside of Canada, the rules that I'm going to be discussing are the Canadian rules. So, first and foremost, in order to be able to make a source of protein claim, it is important to know the protein concentration in your product. And in general, this can be done by doing a Dumas, LICO, or Kaldal analysis. These are the typical means of doing a protein analysis in food. And most of the time, you're going to be sending it out to a contract lab. This is something that most small food processors don't have accessibility to. But it is a reasonably cost analysis to be done at a contract lab. Some labs do have the ability to be doing what's called a PDCAS, or a protein digestibility corrected amino acid score. And this is where they're taking the actual product and digesting it down using various acid and enzyme treatments, and then evaluating the amino acid concentrations of each of the different essential amino acids in particular. Back in the day, they used to do what is called the protein efficiency ratio, and this is still quoted as the standard method, even though it was developed in 1981 and it is an animal testing methodology. But it does work, and there are still some labs that do it. But most companies are going to the PDCAS route and doing a correction of their PDCAS score by multiplying it by 2.5, and that gives a PER approximation. Now, the Canadian Food Inspection Agency has some examples on how to do the calculation. I'm going to escape out of here and walk you through some of those example calculations. So, how on earth do we know about where to find the rules about making a protein claim? Well, I always recommend go and look it up online. Do not rely on print resources. Make sure to go to your government resource, Canadian Food Inspection Agency's Guide to Food Labeling for Industry. If we go down to our claims and statements and go to nutrient content, there is the basic requirements for making a nutrient content claim, but we're going to go straight down to making a protein claim. And I've actually already opened up that tab just to make sure it would load. So to make a protein claim, I do encourage you to read through the entire description given by the CFIA. However, I do want to jump down to some of the tables for the summary of what claims you can make. Source of protein, an excellent source of protein, do require what's called a protein rating of 20 or more from that PER method. That is that F01 method. If you want a copy of it, I will post it in Blackboard. It's a really old school method where they feed mice and they see how fast the mice grow. You need a rating of 20. If you want to make an excellent source of protein, you need a rating of 40. Now, how on earth do you figure out this rating of 40 or more? Well, you know what? What's great is that if we dig a little bit further in here, we are able to figure out some of these additional requirements under a second tab where they do the calculation of protein ratings. So what we do need to know is what is a reasonable daily intake. And in Schedule A or Schedule K of the Food and Drugs Regulation, they indicate on a daily basis an individual should be consuming a certain quantity of a product. This works great for certain commodities such as bread or pasta or mainstream foods. But for example, I know in one of the case studies I have given, I asked people to do a PER in a muffin, and there is no reasonable daily intake of muffins. And that's where we have to then go forward into a case-by-case evaluation for the reference amount, because it's one where in certain cases, let's say you wanted to have a protein source of protein on a chocolate bar. Well, great. We do not have defined reference amounts for many different types of products. You may need to define what is an appropriate serving size for your product based off of the old Schedule M, which has been repealed from the FDR. Now, this is great because they do have some basic calculations. And what you need to do is you need to know the percent of protein in your product and what is a reasonable daily intake. So I'm going to actually jump back to my PowerPoint here. The words are just that little bit bigger. This is CFIA's example. They've calculated the protein concentration, most likely by using LICO or Dumas or Keldal. They have gone into Schedule K of the FDR and identified what the reasonable daily intake of a food product is. This is where you would need to substitute an appropriate serving size if there is no reasonable daily intake. Then we're going to multiply the percent of protein times the serving size to get out the gram quantity of the protein that's being consumed. Then there's this PER value. And again, as I mentioned before, this is something that you may have contracted out from a research lab. But it's also great because CFIA has some published tables of PER of common food ingredients. And that's going to give you your protein rating score here, 12.6. If you recall back from the table from the Guide to Food Labeling for Industry, we needed to have a protein rating of 20 to make a source of protein claim, or a protein rating of 40 to make an excellent source of protein claim. So what happens if there's no reference intake or serving size? You've got to go back to defining what your serving size is based off of your packaged good. In some cases, you can go back to the grandfathered Schedule M value. However, we know that with Safe Food for Canadians Act coming into play, those Schedule M values may be completely eliminated before long. There is a question, what happens if you've got multiple sources of protein? And this is where you really do need to send it back out for PDCAS. However, if those primary sources of protein, if you've got one dominant source of protein and other sources of protein are extremely minimal, I have seen people use that dominant protein as the basis for their claim. Now, let's go back to how I said that CFIA had some PER tables. And so we've got these tables down here, protein efficiency ratio tables, and it gives a PER score for different food products. So for example, white bread is given a PER score of 1. Think Wonder Bread. Whereas bologna, yum, is given a PER score of 2.1. Most meat products are going to have much higher PER scores as compared to plant-sourced foods. So for carrying on down here, gelatin and collagen, which is a really trending ingredient, PER score of 0. Fish, great PER score. Eggs, excellent PER score. Thinking about formulating food products for PER, this is a useful tool if you're thinking about trying to be able to make a source of protein claim. This table can help target in what ingredients may be more useful to be able to get closer to that PER score. Wieners, 2.1. White flour, 0.7. Good times. You know where to find me if you have any questions about calculating PER. I hope you have some fun. It's very on trend to understand the protein values of food, and it is definitely something that a lot of food companies are interested in doing. Take care, have fun, create something new.